my competition were my heroes. So when I would pull up to play beats for an artist, you know, Buck Wild was there, Pharrell was there, Kanye was there, Just Blaze was there. Like, these dudes that I look up to and admire are the dudes that I'm up against when it comes to trying to get on an album.
The one and only Antwan Amadeus Thompson, multi-platinum producer, music director for the one and only Trey Songz, most importantly, a difference maker.
169th Washington Avenue in the Bronx, projects over there. That's my neighborhood, that's where I'm from. Very tough neighborhood. I've never tried or done drugs a day in my life. I've never smoked weed a day in my life.
Wow.
It was frowned upon. I was teased, I was mocked, I was laughed at, I was called church boy, I was called Catholic school boy, every name in the book.
You come home from prison, there's a party. You come home from college, oh, you think you better than us? And that is the face of growing up in the hood. When we make it, I feel like it's our responsibility to send the elevator back down, share our story.
I've never written a speech a day in my life. So when I walk into these spaces, giving commencement speeches at graduations that I gave 6 of them this year, I have no idea what I'm saying to them. Principal freaking out. Went up there, I can't remember anything, I don't know what I said.
Right.
She got up after me and looked and she was like, oh my God. And I just looked at her and I said, I told you.
Welcome to another episode of the Real Mentors podcast. Real, as always, stands for Real Examples Altering Lives. I'm your host, Sean Martin. Today in studio, I'm privileged and honored to have a Bronx native here with us, the one and only Antwan Amadeus Thompson. Freaking accolades out the wazoo. I tell you, I might have to bring the notepad out, but my man is a Bronx native. Most importantly, a difference maker, multi-platinum producer, music director for the one and only Trey Songz. Welcome to the show today, my brother.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for lighting me up with conversation. And
yes, sir.
I just knew this was going to work. Ironically, your name came up in the very beginning of me starting to shoot this podcast. A good mutual colleague of ours, Flow Genius, Fernando, had mentioned me to you, but it wasn't meant to be. And then we found our way to each other, and here we are.
Yes, sir.
Probably about 9 months to a year later. So,
absolutely. Look at that. I didn't even know that story.
Yeah, crazy. So everything happens in due time.
Yes, sir.
And I'm really happy to have you here, brother.
Thank you. Before you say anything about me, I want to celebrate you. I want to celebrate you and all your greatness and what you've done in this amazing platform that you've built for kings and queens like myself to get on here and share our stories. So thank you for all that you do. Very well put together. As I arrived to the studio here, nothing but greatness and excellence. Shout out to you. Shout out to your team. I'm honored to be here. Okay, now you can go.
Hey, cut. We're done. Man, I appreciate you. And, that's it, because like I was telling Yuli, who's in the green room waiting to come on, when we make it, I feel like it's our responsibility to send the elevator back down, share our story. There's so many of us that overcome struggle and adversity to make it on some level of success. I mean, that may be a job that secures your family's future.
Absolutely.
That's a win.
Absolutely.
Especially where we come from. So let's tell us a little bit about where you came from. I know you're a Bronx native. Where in the Bronx exactly?
169th Washington Avenue in the Bronx, projects over there. Very tough neighborhood.
I was going to say the hood.
Yeah, they call my block the 9. Now, people would think it's from the 169th, but no, literally the 9. You know, the violence, the gun violence, and, you know, the things negative that can possibly happen in any community. So I'm not going to sit here and make it seem like I got the worst block in the world. You know, stuff happens anywhere. Stuff can happen in Manhattan. Stuff can happen in the city, Times Square. But that's my neighborhood. That's where I'm from. That's who and what raised me. You know, made me the courageous, fearless individual that I am today. So big shout out to my block, man, the 9, and everybody over there in the 9. Big Bronx energy, man. Big Bronx energy.
You know, you exude confidence and an energy that very few people that I come in contact with do. I mean, more so now that I'm in this space and I'm giving, because, you know, like attracts like.
Yes, sir.
When did you, start to get this fire? Who did you get it from? How'd you grow up? Did you have, a nuclear home? Did you grow up with your aunts, your mom, your grandma? How'd that happen?
So, full house, my mom, my late dad. I want to give a big shout out to my mom. Yesterday was her birthday. She turned 66 years old, but it was also the 3rd anniversary of the passing of my late dad. So big shout out to my dad, the King Silas Thompson. So I grew up with both parents in the household. It's my siblings, and on Saturday mornings, you had to clean up. You know, and I know you can relate to this.
Yes,
you
sir.
couldn't go nowhere. You couldn't do nothing. Go outside, play with your toys until the house was spick and span. And that was the word that my parents used, right? And on those weekends, each one of them would have a Saturday to play what they loved. My father, you know, the Bee Gees, Stevie Wonder, Chic, you know what I mean? Earth, Wind, and Fire. My mom's, Kirk Franklin, The Furious Five, Grandmaster Flash, Salt and Pepper. So music was really big in our home growing up. We all loved it. We all gravitated towards it. For me, it was hip hop. You know what I'm saying? It was hip hop. And it was funny because with them listening to what they listen to and me listening to what I'm listening to, they considered my music not as good as theirs, right? So today's another special day too. Shout out to the legend, one and only Raekwon. Wu-Tang, shout out to the whole Wu-Tang, you know, clan. So today his album dropped, you know, The Emperor's New Clothing.
Dope.
And we have a record on that that I produced. So that I'm sharing that because it just all works in hand where those were some of the first cassette tapes I bought. Wu-Tang, the purple tape, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And a lot of the legends that I've been blessed to work with, man. So shout out to Raekwon. And it just shows you, right, all just dreams come true, no matter where you're from. To have someone who I consider my hero and heroes, now I have the opportunity to work alongside them, and now they're fans of me and what I do from a production standpoint. It's crazy, man. So hip hop literally saved my life. It's something that I love and very passionate about, all genres of music, but that's pretty much how it started out in my household.
Right. Now, you've got your parents and they've got this love of music. Were any of them musically inclined, musicians, singers, or anything like that?
Well, they thought they were. My father swore he played every instrument in the world. He would have his headphones on, and you know, when you have the headphones on, you're screaming way louder than you know. So he's playing the bass, he's playing the guitar, he's playing the keys, he's playing the drums, like airplane.
Yeah.
My mom's just singing and rapping, swearing she's a part of the Salt and Pepper crew and gang, like, you know, so, but none of them were actual like musicians. So I was kind of the only one in the family that, you know, was and gravitated towards the musicianship.
So what's early on for you in terms of when you pick up your first instrument, bang your first drum?
Man.
How does that find you?
So I probably was about 3 or 4 years old, right? And I have the pictures because, you know, most people say, I've been doing this since a baby.
Right.
I got receipts. You know what I'm saying? So probably about 3 or 4 years old. And it's funny because as I look at those pictures, I've recently thought to myself, like, man, I wonder what it was that my parents saw in me that made them purchase me a drum set, right? And then when you see me in the picture, you can see how I'm holding the sticks, how I'm hitting the drums, and I'm like, how did I know to do that as a 3-year-old? There wasn't YouTube, I wasn't watching videos, I wasn't, you know, really understanding what was going on. So it just goes to show you that it was a God-given natural talent that I had, and I'm glad they recognized it because it wasn't until the 4th grade, which I actually started to really learn drums and really took it as a class in school. So that's where it all started.
So you take your first formal class, you don't take any private lessons or anything, you just self-taught at home?
Yeah.
And 4th grade is the first time you dive in? 4th grade,
first time. I chose percussion, right? We were able to choose our instruments. I really wanted to learn how to play the trumpet and the saxophone. Now, my mother and father kept me home from school this day. They don't ever keep me home from school. I could be dying and you're still going.
Right.
But for some reason, whatever I had that day, they didn't let me to go, and then I missed the opportunity to choose that instrument because when I showed up the next day, the slots were all taken for those instruments. The only thing left was the violin and percussion. Now, come on.
Yeah. It's
I'm
already
from the hood, bro.
It's already, we're not playing the violin.
We're not doing
It's
that.
funny you mentioned I actually used to play the saxophone. I went to music in high school.
Wow.
Yeah, no bullshit. So I was introduced to the recorder at like 3rd grade.
Oh, we all had to do that.
Yeah, everybody had the recorder.
You all had to do that.
And then I happened to be in an elementary school that was one of the few that had a music program. So I'm excited to hear this. So your school had a music program as well?
St.
In
Augustine
the Bronx,
School, in the
hood?
Yes, sir.
Wow, are they still active today?
They're a different school. They're a charter school. I think they're Harriet Tubman Charter School. Of course, the music program is no longer there.
What a shame.
I left that school. I was there for 4th grade and 5th grade. I went to a different school, Christ the King on Grand Concourse in the Bronx as well. They had a music program, but you had to pay for it in addition to your tuition. So we went to Catholic school. My siblings and I all went to Catholic school, and if you know about Catholic school, you got to pay tuition. Right. So for me to transfer schools, get into that school, and then you have to pay additional money for me to be a part of the music program, you know, my parents couldn't do it. So all I had was church, you know, up until high school, where I went to Cardinal Hayes, as we discussed earlier. They had a music program as well for free that I didn't have to pay for. And that's where I kind of, you know, took over from there. But it was church that really held me down when it came to me really learning the fundamentals of musicianship.
So at this point, you're learning, sheet music.
Love the fact that you asked that. I was supposed to be learning sheet music, right? What happened was I was so naturally gifted and talented, and the teachers recognized that. They didn't even want to like educate me and show me the way. It was just like, yo, let them hear it. And I would hear it, and I would play it. And they would like show the rest of the band. And I would show the rest of the band. So that's what it was my whole journey, right? So when I first started in 4th grade, I was learning the proper way. Once I got to high school, and they were just like, oh no, he's phenomenal. Like, let's just let him hear it. Let's just let him, he's by ear. Let's let him hear it.
Yeah, some people can do it.
And that was it. And I would just get by for exams and tests, but I was so good. And I'm saying this from a humble stand. I don't want people to think like, oh, he thinks it's better. No, I'm just telling you what it was.
Right.
Like, I was so talented and good that they would just let me breeze by stuff.
Right.
Like, I wasn't really being tested like based off of what I was reading. I was being tested based off of what I was playing and my ability and the popularity that the school had, based off of how dope the band was, from a marching band to the jazz band to performing at the halftime shows. Like, it was a thing.
Yeah, listen, I happen, ironically enough, I have that music background, so I have a familiarity with it. And I'm guessing that's where you got the Amadeus part, was Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart had that same natural ability to hear and play back and make the adjustments and so this really is a God-given talent.
He was nuts.
Yeah. Well, thankfully, you don't present that way
I'm
yet.
Nuts.
But we haven't hung out too much, so I can see your energy could get fucking overwhelming.
I'm nuts.
But I love it, man.
Appreciate you,
because at the end of the day, I like to say that when we make it out, I feel like we have a responsibility to send the elevator back down and to give back. And being that I found a way to raise my family in a healthy environment, eliminate the bad energy from my life.
Absolutely.
I've cleared the space now to help others, right?
Love that.
So I feel that people like us that have this energy that goes beyond what we're capable of just doing for a few people are supposed to be giving it out to as many people as we can.
Absolutely.
And boy, when you do that, the blessings just seem to come your way. You mentioned faith, you mentioned church. How has that played a part in your life?
Man, everything. As a little kid, you don't really understand how powerful it is and what it is that your parents are teaching you and showing you and instilling in you, right? I would go to church and be a fool, man, like just, silly and a clown and, chasing all the little girls around the church and, not really paying attention. And, as I started getting a little older, as a kid, I would start to pay attention because stuff started sounding interesting and I had questions. And I would wonder, and just, based off of where I'm from, as I mentioned, I've seen a lot. I saw a lot of things that I don't think kids should see and experience. And that takes a toll on you. So when you're learning about spirituality and you're learning about God and prayer and all of those different things, you tend to pay attention. And I'm glad I did, because a lot of what I've learned in church has molded and shaped the man that I am today. Right. Creating a solid foundation and really and teaching me and instilling me who I am and where I got this from. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because if you're not careful, you'll think it's you.
Right. And
you'll think you're this supreme being or this super being. And it's like, yeah, you're a great person, but, and these are my beliefs, of course. God has blessed you. God has blessed you with those gifts and talents, right? And church is everything, man, and God is everything. And I'll take that back. I said church is everything. I've learned that you can be anywhere in the world and not necessarily be in the building and be in the house of the Lord or the church, but have the church inside of you. And I've learned that with touring the world, right? Where I couldn't be home and be at church. I couldn't be in my sacred place, right? So I had to create that space for myself everywhere I went. And I would have to use the principles and the morals and values that I was taught by my parents and by my late pastor and bishop to really be able to function in this entertainment business and be able to move in a room full of vultures, right? Be able to, keep negative energy and negative people from around you, asking God for the prayer and the spirit of discernment to know whether someone has the best interest for you or not. Right. You know what I mean? So those are all things that was developed as a child, as I was in church.
You mentioned something poignant, which is an industry full of vultures. The entertainment industry, Yeah, I'd never been around it, but obviously when you're young, your nightclubs and everything is about significance and how people are viewing you.
Absolutely.
So, like you said, you make it. If you're foolish, you make it about you.
Right.
And in that world, there's almost that entire belief system is I'm the one making this happen, and I'm sure there's people in there with spiritual beliefs and what have you.
Absolutely.
But someone with spiritual beliefs that you seem to have extremely deeply ingrained in you from an early age, how do you navigate that water where everything's about show and flash and flair and there's very little substance, if we're being real?
Powerful. I mean, one thing I've always done is that, and that's be me, right? Unapologetically, just be me, right? At first, I obviously wasn't the coolest kid, you know what I mean? I went to, Catholic school. I had to dress up each and every single day. I didn't have what I consider the finest things of fashion, the Jordans and all of the other kids wore in the hood and at schools. And, it was frowned upon. I was teased, I was mocked, I was laughed at, I was called church boy, I was called Catholic school boy, every name in the book, you know what I mean? But there was a certain level of confidence that I've always had. There was something that I recognized and realized that existed inside of me that I was really big on and made that happen. So once I arrived and got into that space, I still made sure to be me, right? Knowing how to be around others and knowing how to be in the room but not of the room is the thing. And that's something that I've always been really big on. Earning your respect and then keeping respect and having respect, going both ways, but saying, okay, I know Amadeus is in hip hop. He's working with all of these secular artists and he's around this and this and that, but nah, he's a man of God. He's a man of his word. He's a man of integrity, and there's no judgment involved, you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, I am human. I have made plenty of mistakes. I have failed. I have fallen. But there's certain things I will not fall in. And there's certain things I will not fail with. I've never tried to have done drugs a day in my life. I've never smoked weed a day in my life, right? Wow. And there's no judgment because what happened was my parents told me when I was growing up, weed was drugs.
Right.
So it put a certain level of fear in my heart that I didn't want to touch anything that had to do with drugs. Now, obviously, we grow older and we learn that it's not. But I've lived my entire life, 44 years, of not having that. So why would I do it now?
Right.
So still to this day, as a 44-year-old black king from the Bronx, from the hood, in the music business, never did. So that just goes to show you, and I'm just sharing that to say, once I believe something, once I commit to something, it's what it is. Nothing is going to shake me. There's no peer pressure. There's nothing you can say to get me to do something that I don't want to do, no matter how big you are, no matter who you are, no matter what celebrity, superstar you are, bro. I'm who I am.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
I found that confidence, but damn, bro, it took me a lot longer and a lot more mistakes to find that confidence than you. So kudos, because that was my next question when I heard you speaking was, where did you get that confidence from for you to be able to navigate? Now, you have to know how it is to grow up in the hood, but just knowing that you were meant for something greater, right? Because I've known that from early on. But to walk those streets where everybody, well, not everybody, but a good amount, if not a majority of people, will frown upon that.
Yes,
and it's like Chris Rock said, right? You come home from prison, there's a party. You come home from college, oh, you think you better than us? And that is the face of growing up in the hood. There's so much negativity, there's so much downward gravity of a pull into that negative lifestyle that when you do walk a higher path, when you do walk in your church clothes or your Catholic school clothes, you're mocked. Or you're a nerd. You're a geek. You're gonna get beat up. You're gonna get jumped.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm big and I carry myself, but I've been in that position too.
Yes, sir.
I was never the top of the food chain, but I was also never a herb. Well, somewhere in the middle.
Right, me too.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like,
I'm no gangster, man.
Yeah, listen, where do you get the confidence at such a young age to just be you?
I just feel I've already been through that. You know what I mean? I know what it feels to be laughed at. I know what it feels like to look down upon. You know what I'm saying? I know what that is. I know what it is to not have the cool stuff. So it's like, if I can overcome that, then everything else is easy because I'm a child dealing with that.
Right.
So as an adult, as a man, me dealing with that back then when I was a kid prepared me for today and prepared me for what I would, possibly face or be up against in the business that I chose to be a part of. So I've always had that confidence, always can walk in a room and shut it down. Always can walk a room and not be timid and not be shy. Like, nah, I'm the life of the party.
Right.
You know what I mean? Which got me in trouble in school. You know what I'm saying? And you just learn that there's an off and on switch and there's a time and place for everything, and not everything deserves for you to be at 100. You know, bring it down a few notches. You know what I'm saying? So it just takes trial and error. But I feel like, again, me being from the Bronx and me being from the hood, I'm not the toughest guy, but when it comes to my beliefs and what I want to do and what I want to achieve, like,
but that makes you tough.
Yeah.
It's just not viewed that way because, you know, unfortunately, you know, what we respect in the hood is violence.
Yes, sir.
And not integrity. We don't respect someone who's willing to walk in the integrity. You said, I'm just being me. And I'll use Lil Yachty as an example, only because he comes to mind, because I heard something similar. Is like, he's goofy. He comes off as goofy, but he's being real. This is who he is.
And at the end of the day, you can sleep with that.
Correct.
You can, as long as you being you, regardless of what the world view you as or see you as, you gotta sleep with what you do. You know what I mean? You're contributing and building your legacy. So at the end of the day, 20, 30, 40 years from now, when you look back or people look back on your life, you know, it's about what it is that you see. It's like, okay, I may not be the most successful person, I may not be the most richest person, and who knows? I pray that we do, right? But it's not about that. And it's never been about that. It's for me, it's always been about being fearless and going after each and every single dream that I had as a kid and still have today, and not allowing anything or anyone stop me from achieving them, period.
Now let's talk about that, dreams. Are you someone who just visualizes, because you are creative, so, you know, you also have a talent to hear and then, you know, kind of play back in your own style. When it comes to setting goals, when it comes to setting these visions, are you intentional? Do you write it down? Or is this something you just kind of, you know, visualize in your head? How does that work for someone like you?
Definitely something I visualize in my head. I've never written anything down, except for when I was a kid. You know how they make you create that board.
Like a vision board.
Yeah, so I've done that in the past. But most times I'll feel it, believe it, and then I'll say it. Straight up, you know what I mean? And if you know me and know me well, if I say something, and I'm only talking from a positive lens, of course, you know, or something, a goal, or trying to achieve something, right? If I say something, I'm going after that,
right? Period.
And I'm not quitting, I'm not giving up until I obtain that. And if it doesn't happen right away or it takes years, I understand that timing is about it. Everything's about timing, right? So that doesn't mean that is a no. It's just maybe not right now. Like, even, you know, when you talked about Young Genius mentioning me, you know, the timing didn't align for us to have an interview a year ago. It aligned for us to have it right now. And then you reflect on the time when he mentioned, you know, me to you, and you're like, okay, we're here. You're like, nothing and no one could have forced that to happen. And if someone would have forced it to happen, it wouldn't be the proper conversation. It wouldn't be the right vibe. It wouldn't be the dope moment. Like, this is the moment. You know what I'm saying? So it is what it is. I always remain prayerful, and it's way bigger than me. You know what I mean?
I think that humility is what's going to keep you moving forward. You also do a lot of great work. I mean, I spoke to you the other day kind of in preparation for this interview, and you were on your way to Mariah Carey's summer camp or something.
Fresh Air Fund,
Tell us a little bit about that, and then let's dive into some of the impact that you're making and how you're sharing your story to make a difference.
It was amazing. One thing I've always wanted to do as a kid was go to the Fresh Air Fund. And my mother and father didn't play no games. It was a hard, super strong no for me to go anywhere and sleep anywhere overnight.
That you weren't going to be next to them,
Absolutely. So when I got there, it was a moment for me because it was something I always wanted as a child. So to actually be there as an adult at the Fresh Air Fund, going to speak to the campers and walking around and seeing all of the amazing views in the cabins, and it was like super overwhelming, and I was just really taking it in and happy and excited for those campers that were there to experience that. And that shows a certain level of maturity and love, right? Because if I wasn't, I could have taken it in a different way. I could have been upset like, Dad, why you ain't, oh man, I ain't go here. But it's like, nah, I'm grateful for those that are here and present and able to experience that. And I remember calling my daughter's mom and was like, yo, I want her to do this. Like, I want her to go to camp, because it's for 3 weeks. 3 weeks, You're there. They take your
No phone, yeah.
There's no TV. It's just activities. You're getting up. You're learning. There's classes, and you're in a cabin.
Sounds like when we grew up.
Yeah,
we had TV, obviously, but yeah.
You know what I mean? And it was phenomenal. I spoke to them from my heart, from my soul. They're still writing me today about it. Today is Friday, so today is the actual last day for that first group that did the 3 weeks. So they go home. Another group comes in, I think the top of next week or the end of the next week, and they do 3 weeks. So It was so amazing, and this experience was so dope for myself and for the campers that they want me to come back to speak to the second group of students and campers that are going to be attending the program, man. So I love it, and I was sharing with them, and I'm sharing with you and the viewers. I've never written a speech a day in my life. Mm-hmm. So when I walk into these spaces, whether it's me giving commencement speeches at graduations, that I gave 6 of them this year, and going and hosting my assemblies at schools, I have no idea what I'm gonna say to them, and I tell them that, and they look at me like I remember a principal freaking out. I mean, she was like, "So, can you send me your speech so I can, type it up and just take a look at it?" And I looked at the principal. This is right before the graduation. I said, "I have no idea what I'm gonna say." She was like, "Excuse me?" I said, "I have no idea what I'm gonna say." And she was like, "You're not gonna work on it now?" I said, "No. When your kids come in here, your graduates and the parents, and this room fills, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to look at everybody and I'm going to take in what I'm feeling. I'm going to take in the energy. I'm going to take in the vibe. And when you call me and I stand on that, that space to give whatever I need to say, trust me, it's going to be what it needs to be." And she was like, "Oh my God." Like she was freaking out.
Right, because they want to see some kind of certainty. They want to be safe. This guy's not going to go up there and bomb.
And it was fifth graders too, right? Mind you, I never hosted assembly, so there was no relationship with me in the school. Because usually I'll host an assembly, come there first, build rapport with the kids, and then come back and talk to them and like, "Oh, that's Amadeus." Nothing. Cold. Went up there. I can't remember anything. I don't know what I said.
Right.
Sat down. She got up after me and looked, and she was like, "Oh my God." And I just looked at her and I said, "I told you."
I told you I'm good.
And I was sure to tell her, like, this is God's work.
There you go.
I can't take none of this credit. To God be the glory. I don't know. I don't even know what I couldn't repeat nothing I said to you. I can't say what I said to you now. In the moment, in the spirit, take over.
I have a saying, and it's that when you step into your purpose, God will roll out the red carpet for you. So I think that was a testament to that. But it also speaks to your connection with your soul. Mm-hmm. And that's where music comes from, in my humble opinion. So I wanted to dive back into your early career. We know you're a drummer, percussionist. Mm-hmm. You've got the Catholic school. You're talented. You're getting whizzed by because your grades may not be as good, but you know what? Like a football player, he's bringing value. We're going to let him slide because, listen, you were adding value, and that was your talent. Not everybody's going to be an accountant or mathematician, and I think now we're seeing that more than ever with artificial intelligence and all technology available to us, and they're holding on to this old belief system that we know doesn't work in schools, and we're just like, no, you can't use that.
Right.
Every other country is using that. Their kids are using that. Where's that going to leave us? Behind. So, anyway, railing on a subject that I'd love to get into as far as technology and production later, but I want to start with your career. When do you first pick up a synthesizer, a keyboard, and start actually producing? How does that happen? Who introduces you to that?
Right.
And I mean, when do you get started? At what age?
Man, I was really young. I'm trying to think. Probably about 13, 14-ish. Of course, what equipment costed back then, we didn't have that.
So we're talking early 90s now.
Yeah. So, it was using the equipment that was at the church. You know what I mean? My partner at the time, Steve Suit White, had the Sonic keyboard, so I was using that. My late minister of music at the church, Derek Garbo, went and got the Roland XP50 keyboard.
Okay.
I remember him walking down the aisle in church from leaving Sam Ash with a new keyboard, and I'm like this. And he's walking in, and he shows it, and he's like, "Yo, this is a workstation." And I was like, "What does that mean?" He's like, "You can create and program the entire song, track, everything in this keyboard." And I was like, wow, right? Got through church. He's getting ready to leave. I was like, "Can I take it home?" And he was like, "Huh?" I said, "Can I take it home?" He was like, "For what?" I said, "I want to learn it. I want to learn it. I want to figure it out." And he's like, "All right, cool. Just make sure it's back for church and on time. Take it." And I took that joint home, and for days, just No, and we hate the manual, so we don't ever read manuals.
I still haven't done it.
Took that joint home, mastered it. Every time I brought it back to the church, I was teaching him like 10 things that it can do, and he was in awe every time, to the point where he was like, "Take it,
right.
Take it." And that's pretty much how it started. So I was on everybody else's equipment until the time came, for me to get mine. And shout out to my son's mom, because he was responsible for purchasing my MPC. You know what I'm saying? And
how old are you when you get that?
Yo, probably 19, 20, somewhere around there, 19, 20, 21. But we was creating, but I was creating on other people's.
Right. That's your first piece of equipment. What's that feeling like?
Oh man, it was nothing like it.
I saw your whole demeanor change.
Because when you're using other people's equipment, like you gotta work according to their time and their availability. You know what I'm saying? So that changed the game when it's like, okay, this is mine. I can work whenever I want to work, how I want to work, for how long I want to work. Was on and popping. So I got the MPC 2000 XL. Master Dash started getting like sound modules from there and keyboards as I would save up and start placing beats, and that's pretty much where everything came together, man. So that's how it came together. I got to give a shout out to Buck Wild too, legendary producer. Buck has produced for Biggie and Nas and Hove, and I remember my mom calling him because he was a family friend, saying he's talking about this production stuff, and she knew he was a producer. She was like, "Can you take him with you and just to see if he's serious?" And I'm hearing him talk about it, but like that'll be kind of cool. So he picked me up one day, brought me to the studio. That was my first time like in a real studio and actually seeing what a producer does. So he was playing, I think, rest in peace, Black Rob. We went to see Black Rob. We went to see Busta. We went to see Missy, LL, all in one night. So I'm listening, a fly on the wall, watching him play beats for each artist as they pick out what they love and what they like. And Busta starts writing to one of them, and I'm like witnessing this, watching my heroes choose beats that he made, and I'm like, yo, I play drums. I'm a musician. Why would I not want to do that? Because I thought I was going to be a rapper. We're going to fast forward really quick. But it just made sense, man. And I remember going home that day and was just like, yeah, that's it. That's what I want to do. Now, they frowned upon it because they didn't understand the business. I didn't understand the business either. It was just love and passion.
Loving the music, yeah.
And they was like, no, you're going to go to college, you're going to go to school, you're going to do. And I was just like, no, I'm going to do that.
Right. Now, are you outright telling them you're not going to do that, or you just kind of like, yeah, okay?
Big rebel. Big rebel.
Well, not a rebel. You believe so strongly in this, and you know what? Not for nothing, as good parents that they seem to be, we empower our children to be who they're supposed to be, and then we're like, damn, I gave them too much power, and this is backfiring because they're not being what I think they should be.
You answered it.
But we'll never be what our parents think that we should be, and my kids will never be what I want them to be. They're going to be who they're supposed to be.
That's the challenge, though, right? And I see this on a day-to-day basis, and I'm sure you see it as well, where that's why I have the conversation I have with schools and the children at schools and host the assemblies. The conversation is about recognizing their love and passion for whatever it is that they love and what they want to do and what their dreams are. So that's the conversation that we have. And when I sit or stand in an auditorium and have this conversation, the energy that they give, the excitement. Some know what they want to be and some don't. Even the ones that don't know what they want to do, what their dreams are, they're getting excited about hearing others and hearing other people's dreams and their friends and their teachers. And I'm like, okay, if you don't know what you want to do, you don't know what your dreams are, that's fine, but what do you love? What do you love to do? I love music. What about music do you love? Oh, I love like hearing this and hearing that. And okay, so you can possibly be a recording engineer, or maybe you can be a mix engineer, maybe you can be a musician or a producer, or maybe you could be a songwriter, and you start throwing all these different ideas, and they're like, bing, and light bulbs go off in their heads, but they're so excited. Because some of those, and you just mentioned it, some of those kids are not able to talk about this or have never talked about it, and always hear what their parents want for them and what they feel is the safest thing.
Right.
Or the safest route or direction to go in life. And it's like, it could be the safest, but is it what he or she loves?
Right.
When you can wake up, and this is what we do on a day-to-day basis, excited because you're living the life that you love, and you're doing what you love, there's no greater feeling versus the person that has to wake up like, oh man, I gotta get up. I gotta go drive to this job. I gotta go deal with this boss. I gotta deal with these people, my coworkers. That's how much they paying me.
Right.
Versus the dude where like, okay, who am I working with today? Are we going tour? Am I going to LA today? Am I going to sit down, on this amazing podcast with my brother today? Or am I going to go speak to kids at a school? Right. Everything I'm mentioning is things that I love and I'm passionate about.
Right.
And it's a beautiful feeling to be able to wake up every day and do that.
Yeah, you're living in God's light, man.
Amen.
And I feel blessed enough to be doing the same. And it's not to say that, there aren't times when I'm not as aligned or I'm not confused or I'm not 100% in. But just blessed and grateful to be able to get up every day and do what I want to do.
Yes, sir. Versus what you have to do.
Live a life of intention, right, versus what somebody else. And I always say, the later you wait, even though there is no deadline, the more likely that fire is to go out. And I also speak to family members of my own. I also speak to the parents when I speak to kids because they don't realize that maybe they're stepping on the potentiality of their children doing something great, greater than they even know because they just don't understand it. And my mother, for all her amazing lessons, I wouldn't ask my mom how to, do certain things. I mean, maybe in the beginning I did because I didn't have another reference point, but that's the point of the show. It's, all right, I want to do this thing. I don't know how. Who's doing the thing I want to do? Let me get next to that person.
Right.
And that's what the show is about in a virtual sense, but in a real life sense, you were able to do that. Now you're next to Buck Wild. Now you're seeing Busta and all these other artists. Yeah. When do things start to take a turn? Because now you're the fly on the wall, but when do you start producing? And what's the first big moment where you're like, I mean, you already get the confidence, which I'm fucking blown away by, but where do you get that moment where you're like, oh, this is gonna work?
Yeah. Just years, I call it years shooting in the gym, man. Which we don't really see today in artists and creatives, right? Because everything is so accessible now. I didn't have the internet, back then. We didn't have social media, we didn't have none of that. So you really had to shoot in the gym and really develop. My competition were my heroes. So when I would pull up to play beats for an artist, Buck Wild was there, Pharrell was there, Kanye was there, Just Blaze was there. Like these dudes that I look up to and admire are the dudes that I'm up against when it comes to trying to get on an album. You know what I mean? So when you think about today, everybody named Mama is a music producers, a songwriters, and artists, and dancers in the world. It's like, nah, I was in the studio for years, creating until I felt like, not perfection, right? But I felt like I was good enough to compete with my peers. So I wasn't going around playing my music. I was playing for my homies.
Right.
But I wouldn't play anything until I felt it was at that level to even try to attempt being in the music industry. You know what I'm saying? So that took a long time. And my first opportunity, my first big moment, shout out to Foxy Brown, and rest in peace DMX. DMX was working on Cradle to the Grave movie and soundtrack. And I went to the studio to play Foxy Brown beats. She picked up a few joints, and she ended up writing the theme song, the titled song to the Cradle to the Grave movie and soundtrack. That was my first record. That was my first track sold, first album I'm on. The song was in the movie because it was a film.
Right.
Legendary, bro. I remember going to FYE to buy the CD.
Wow.
Seeing my name, seeing my name in the credits. I remember going to the movie theater and watching it, knowing I made this beat in my living room, and now it's playing in the big screen for millions of people around the world. Watch the credits roll at the end, seeing my name and jumping up and screaming, "That's me!" And everybody looking at me in the theater like, "What's wrong with this kid?" And that was the moment, right? So,
how old are you at that point?
Definitely early 1920-ish.
And we're talking early 2000s right now. Hip hop is golden era. New York.
Yeah.
Everybody. You mentioned Foxy, DMX, Rough Riders, Eve,
Heavy, Rockefeller,
Swizz is hitting the scene.
Boy.
Everybody.
Death
so the competition is thick.
Crazy.
But because you're next to some of the highest level competition, let's just say that New York's ever produced, and we're biased because that's our era. But I mean, that makes you level up. And that is something that I tell people all the time, is you gotta get in a room where you're the dumbest, brokest, least talented person, because you are going to raise your standards when you see what it takes to get to that level. as opposed to playing it safe and being the big boy in the room where everybody's, oh, that's dope, but nobody's on the level.
Yes, sir.
So you inclined to stay the same.
Bro, it's the realest feeling ever, man. Like when you're on albums that Neptunes are on, and they're on albums that Timbaland is on. You know what I'm saying? Your name is coming right after Kanye. Like, it's serious. And I remember being in those rooms and having a little bit of nervousness, right? But then what we talked about earlier, that confidence, which is big, I just had a big level of confidence. That confidence would kick in, and I would have to have a self-meeting with myself right there in the room in silence. Like, bro, what you worried about? What you afraid of? You here. You're in the room.
Right.
In order for you to be in the room amongst the elite, you have to be great at what you do.
Right.
Or you wouldn't be in the room. So be confident and press play. You know, Fab is sitting there and we all sitting around and like, who gonna go first? Me. And the OGs and the legends looking at me like, what you got, youngin'? I'm young. What you got, youngin'? This right here. But and my energy and my attitude and my swag when I press play was just like, yeah, I go first.
You gotta be fearless.
And bro, legendary, man. Legendary. But then I could have left. I could play. You know, you could play your beats and then let them pick what he going to pick and bounce. Go to the next session. Nah, I want to stay, bro. I want to sit here and hear what Tim playing. I want to sit here and hear what Ye playing. I want to hear what Justice playing. So that I can, like you said, I can go home and be inspired about what I just heard, because you know it's going to be nuts. Like, you know it's going to be crazy.
Right.
So I'm not going to be hating, bouncing, or sit there mad. Like, nah, I want to be inspired. I want to hear how you tuning your drums. I want to hear how that bass line you about to play, how you chop that sample up. So when I go home, it's like, you heard what you heard, bro.
Yeah.
Now what you going to do? You know what I'm saying?
So you got the chops. You got the right people forcing you to level up intentionally and unintentionally just by being in that room. You have to level up or get the fuck out.
Right.
That's
period.
the bottom line, right? I'm going to just share a selfish story. I was just in a room with Tony Robbins.
Wow.
And I just made a huge commitment to Tony Robbins to do something extraordinary and get in front of 100,000 youth before the end of next year. The goal of the whole session was be bold, be relentless, and set seemingly impossible goals.
That way.
With deadlines, so that you got to get moving and you got to get moving fast.
That way. I love that.
And, you know, to be able to speak to someone who's considered the GOAT in that space, have a personal conversation, I am now accountable,
yes, sir,
to come back and deliver the goods. Because if I don't, you know, nobody's gonna say nothing.
Right.
But
right.
Yeah,
you know what it is.
You know what it is, exactly. And you know, you're not gonna be the first person. They're gonna be like, all right, well, how many people we get in front of? 4,000? It's like, damn, not even 50, 60?
Right.
You know, shoot for the moon, you might land them on the clouds.
Yes, sir.
You know what I mean? But if you don't shoot for the moon, you're not even gonna get there. So I always say go big or go home.
Absolutely, always.
You got the pedigree. What's the business side like at this point? So, you know, you got the soundtrack spot, you're starting to get, you know, hits, people are starting to pick up your tracks. I'm sure you don't know the business at this point.
Not at all.
And
Not
you
at
probably
all.
had to learn it the hard way?
Yep.
What's that look like?
So I picked up a book called Everything You Need to Know About the Music Business, written by, there's two versions. One is written by Donald Passman, the other one is just written by Kashif. I've read this book over and over and over and over again, stopped, read it over and over and over and over again, some more until I got it. And you definitely will self-taught. I also want to give a big shout out to Mike Moore. Mike Moore was managing me at my early stages, and he educated me a lot on the business as well. So I can't sit here and act like I just got it from the book. He educated me so much on the business, producer agreements, deals, negotiating, and so I want to give, I don't know where he's at today because it's been years, probably about over 20-something years since we've connected, but I want to give him some love. But yeah, self-taught, man, and you learn the hard way. Like I learned immediately with that Foxy Brown situation where, you know, I'm new, no one knows me at the label. You know, her brother works hand in hand alongside her. He goes to Def Jam, says this, and that. They believe him. You know, I open up the credits, I see both of our names in there, knowing that I was solely the producer of the record. He took half of the money.
Right.
I was only to get the second half. I had to chase it. You know what I mean? Me and my son's mom calling the labels, not knowing who to speak to, not knowing. So yeah, bro, I've been through some stuff. But
the usual, I would imagine.
You live
growing
and you
pains.
learn. You live and you learn. You know, you accept what it is. One thing that I would like to say is, you know, as angry as I was
Right.
As disappointed as I was, I didn't allow it to overtake me. You know, I saw the bigger picture and just focused on the music, you know, and just was like, yo, all right, that happened, it went down, I just gotta take it on, you know, I gotta take it on the chin and keep it pushing and not allow that to overtake me and me react in a negative way and overdo it. Nah, just because I don't want to burn any bridges. I don't want to kill any relationships. I just got here.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I want to come back and do more music with her. If that's what it's going to be, that's what it's going to be. At least I know now. You know what I'm saying? Because it could have just been said.
Right.
It could have been said, hey, man, I do everything with her. I write everything with her. You know, I'm the guy when it comes to her. So we're just going to, you know, split everything down the middle. I'm cool, bro. I just got here. Let's do it. Right. It's about communication.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because now I'm in a position today to do what he did. But I'm not going to move like that. I want to move with integrity. I want to move with in honor. Hey, guys, producers, songwriters, this is how I work. This is how I run my team. This is how I run my movement. You have a choice. Right. You ain't got to be with me. You ain't got to roll with me. You ain't got to roll with my team. You can go play for the, you know, I'm the Giants. You can go play for the Jets.
Nobody wants to play for the Jets? Nah, I'm just joking.
It's cool. You know, I'm the Giants. You can go play for the Jets. It's cool. But you have a choice, and I'm transparent and letting you know what it is out the gate so that you can decide if this is for you or not. Not just, you know, throwing you on a team, shooting you up and
you're doing it the right way. You don't want people to feel like you did or have to learn the hard way. You're a teacher.
I'm gonna put it. This is what it is.
Right.
Yes or no.
And that's not even a knock on, you know, that whole situation because they were doing what they needed to do to get their ends, and that's just the way of the world.
Absolutely.
And like you said, you're navigating an industry, and listen, we're in a world that is, you know, not full of, but you know, has enough vultures. But the only way that you're going to be able to avoid them is to get bitten a couple of times.
Absolutely.
So you know what to look for.
And then make sure you don't come back and then do the same thing that they did to you. Right. Be different. Break the curse.
Yeah,
so you don't become the same animal.
Yeah, that's for sure, man. You don't. I would say change the world, don't let it change you, right? So you could screw me, and I may be upset, and then I'll be like, all right. If I'm really being honest, I kind of felt it.
Right.
Something was off. Right. I should have trusted my gut. My fault.
Yeah.
And the two most important words are my fault. That way you can move forward.
Taking ownership, man.
You know, I try to teach a lot of people in my circle and in my life that I'm like, listen, I don't care if it's your fault or not. If you look in the mirror and you say, my fault, what role did I play in this? Whether or not you did or didn't, you empower yourself to move forward. Because when you get caught up on somebody wronging you,
man,
there's nothing. Yeah. There's nothing. It's just like, there's nothing good that's gonna come of it. You can cut that person out, but then be like, my fault, and take your power back. Because when you blame someone else, you are essentially giving them your power.
Powerful.
And I will be damned.
Right.
If at this point, but that's something we learn through time. So you're still in the game, you're still producing, you're still active. Because I did a little research. What are some of the new projects you got going on? You know, where can we find you? And you're still music director for Trey Songz, who was just out here on the island the other day at a nightclub. My wife was supposed to be there and then was like, I don't be out that late. So she didn't go. He didn't come on till like 1:45 in the morning. She's like, I'm glad I didn't go. We old now.
That's the life, man. But yeah, still producing. You know, I really took some time off musically to really just focus on what I was doing at the schools. It takes a lot of time, you know, it takes a lot of energy. And I just wanted to put all my energy into those kids and those students, man. So I took really the top of the year off. Just kind of really getting back into it now. Heavy in the production. Again, shout out to Raekwon, album out in stores today. Definitely still touring with Trey Songz. I also have my residency in Las Vegas at Dre's nightclub. So I go out on the weekends and I'm the resident drummer at Dre's.
Okay.
So I play alongside a DJ. Shout out to DJ Franzen and all the other DJs that I play with. Very unique situation. You know, you're not used to seeing drummers have residencies. You know, so DJs, artists, magicians. So definitely one of the first drummers to create that moment. So big shout out to my Dre's family for that opportunity. But moving and shaking, man. Moving and shaking. I think this year, in the last few years, has been years of pivot. And, you know, sometimes it's just, not even sometimes, it's just not about putting all your eggs in one basket. It's just about sprinkling them in different baskets and allowing things to, you know, mature and to grow. You know, one thing that I've learned being in the business is you can be the hottest person in the world. Artist, producer, have the hottest record, the biggest record. It's like a plate of food. You know, your wife cook you a meal and it's hot. Honey, come eat. All right, cool. I'll be there in 5 minutes. If you let the plate sit there for 5 minutes, it's not going to be steaming hot and as fresh as it was when she first brought it to you. So now you're gonna come sit down 5 minutes later. Now 5 minutes turned into 7 minutes, right? What happens to that plate? It was hot. Now it's warm. Now it's cold. Just in a matter of seconds. And I learned that the hard way. That's how it can be with your career in anything that you do. So you don't get caught up in you being hot at the moment and just sit back and kick your legs up like, nah, bro, I could have the hottest song right now, and then tomorrow somebody else has the hottest song. So if I can have the hottest song, be touring with Trey, have the residency in Vegas, have my book for the kids, go host and speak, the assemblies at schools and commencement speeches and public speaking events, and you're doing all of those different things so that if something cools down a little bit or dries up over here for a little bit, you'll have all these seeds planted in other spaces from the God-given gifts and talents that you have to be able to do what you love, and then that's the same thing at the same time, take care and provide for yourself and your family.
That's beautiful, brother. I appreciate you coming on today, sharing your story and making a commitment to change the lives of others, particularly, black and brown from where we come from and beyond. Absolutely. And then encouraging them to lean into their dreams and even, kind of coaching up the parents and supporting the idea of, hey, you may not realize that you might be stomping on, something great in the future because you don't understand it now.
Man.
Yeah, so leave us with some beautiful words of wisdom. Not that you haven't been dropping gems since you got here, my brother, but let the audience know where they can find you.
Absolutely.
What you got going on next, and some parting words of wisdom.
Man, again, thank you for having me here. Yesterday was a very emotional day. Being the third year that I lost my dad, but it was also my mom's birthday. So I'm bringing that up to say, cherish those that you love. Really spend the time and take the time to be with those that you love, and just enjoy life and live life to its fullest. We have a lot of dreams and aspirations. We have goals. We have things we want to obtain, things we want to achieve, and we're all capable of achieving those things. But make sure in the midst of doing that you live life. We only get one chance, one opportunity at this thing called life, and we are to cherish it. We are to honor it, and most importantly, leave a legacy that's a blessing to others. My gift of music, my gift of creativity is not for me to shine, it's not for me to gain accolades, but it's for me to give and share with the world. And if I can lift someone up with a song, if I can lift someone's spirits up with a show, a performance, with my book, with words of encouragement, words of wisdom, that's what I want to do. Out of all of the songs I've created, out of all of the things I've done performance-wise, you can forget about that. But one thing you'll never forget about is a conversation like this, which will last forever, of us giving you inspiration, of us giving you encouragement and motivation that you too can live your dreams just like we are right now. So blessings to everyone that's tuned in. Amazing conversation. Honored to be here. And it's the king, not Amadeus, but you got to call me Dr. Amadeus now, from the Bronx. You heard? From the Bronx to the world. I didn't just do it. God did. God bless.
Amen. With that, I just want to thank you again for coming out. This man has unintentionally set a goal for me. Wow. He is on the Bronx Walk of Fame.
Yes, sir.
I am now setting a goal to be on the Bronx Walk of Fame, on the Grand Concourse. And man, honorary doctorate. Such an inspiration. Bronx born and raised, yes, doing the right thing. I know we're going to cross paths again and impact as many lives as we can, my brother. Thank you as always for tuning in to another episode of the Real Mentors podcast. We hope you got something out of it. We're going to have King Amadeus's information in the bio as always. Stay tuned. And as always, let's get it.